these certifications are popular and they are the best certifications for beginners. Now, I know I'm opening a can of worms. Some people say, hey, sorry, I didn't have to shout. But yeah, some people say you can't start from Network Plus, it's too low. You can jump to CCNA, or some people say you can jump to CCNP or CCIE. Like, let's face it, there are certain kids that are smart, that have jumped grades. But most of us, we went through a simple progression path. Preschool, primary school, high school, college, and then got a job. That's the path for many of us. So I'm going to be focusing on the path for many people, not the single individuals that are smart enough. So you can jump and do CCIE, that's you. But I need to speak to someone who's wanting to begin and start their career in networking. Hey, welcome back to this channel. My goal for this channel is to be a resource for those that are starting their career in the networking industry through tutorials, course reviews, tips and guides, just like this one. So if you're new here, welcome. In my previous video, I looked at the overview of starting a career in the networking industry. And in today's video, the focus is on certifications. Which certifications are the best to start with when you're starting your career in networking? And what value do these certifications offer? Is there even any demand on the market? So in today's video, we're going to be focusing on 3 certifications. We're going to look at Network Plus. We're going to look at Cisco's CCNA. And then you're going to look at Juniper's certification. But before we go into the certifications into detail, I want us to look at why are they popular? Why are certifications popular? And this is my reasoning as to why they are popular. With any qualification, the objective of the employer is to try and understand the amount of knowledge that you have. It could be a diploma, it could be a degree. The very fact that you're able to say, I've got a diploma in X, I have a degree in Y. If I am your employer, I can have an estimate of what you're capable of doing. So certifications are kind of the benchmark that organizations use to try and assess your depth and level of knowledge when it comes to networking and most of the IT knowledge and qualifications. So the popularity of certifications is going to be driven by market share. So when I'm talking about market share, what I'm referring to is the vendor who provides network equipment, who has the biggest market. So Cisco is very popular because Cisco has a significant market share when it comes to network equipment, especially with switches and routers. Juniper has a portion of the market because it is big in North America. So by virtue of these vendors being the big players in the networking space, their certifications or qualifications then become sought after because most of the organizations are using their qualifications. The second reason is demand. Why the certifications are popular? The employers are looking for these certifications. And because employers are looking for these certifications, and when you're applying for a job, most of the job adverts are asking for you to have CCNA, they're asking for Network Plus, they're asking for, CCNP, whatever the qualification is. And because the employers are asking for them, their demand has basically increased as a result. So if you do a course that is in demand, it means that your employment opportunities are going to be much more bigger. And the third aspect is something known as the perception of knowledge. I'm probably not going to write all of it here. So the perception of knowledge. And what I'm referencing to is, and I mentioned that earlier on, when you hold a particular qualification, all right, let's come out of IT. Let's just take a basic example. When someone has a driver's license, right, there are a few assumed positions. The first one is they can drive, right? So if you've got a driver's license, you assumed that you got that license legitimately. There was no corruption, so you can drive. The second part is that you know the road rules because you've got a valid license. This is similar when we talk about certifications. Because you've got a certification, there is an assumed position that you have an understanding of how to operate the network device or the infrastructure that you are certified in. Now, be careful. If you look at my language, I'm not saying you've got the experience. Experience is one thing. Perception is another thing. The fact that you are certified validates that you have some knowledge about the product. Not that you got the experience, but you have some knowledge. So I just wanted to be clear on that point. The certifications that we're talking about are popular because, or they are in demand because the vendors that are supplying them have got a bigger market share. There is demand by the employers for these certifications, and there is the perception of knowledge. So when you say you have the particular certification, there is an assumed aspect of the knowledge that you have. Now, I want us to look at the benefits of these certifications. So I'm probably going to draw a line here. What are the benefits? Because let's face it, no one just goes to school for the purpose of going to school. We want to derive value from the certification. So the first one is recognition. Right. The fact that you got the certification, it means you are recognized. Who are you recognized by? The employer. Because remember, we want to get a job. So the employer says, I want CCNA certification. I have CCNA, so I am recognized by the employer and I can easily find a job. If there was no recognition of the certification, then maybe most of us will not be doing it and these ones will not be in demand. The second one is, right, I'll put dollar signs. It's the money. Let's face it. Things are expensive. We want to survive. So we're not going to beat around the bush. I know. I love networking. I can't find myself doing anything else. But at the same time, it never hurts to get paid because my mortgage is not paid on my passion. My kids don't eat my passion. They need food in their tummy. So the reality of it is that we need to get paid. Employers are willing to pay more when you've got the certification. So there's a higher salary that comes with the qualification. These are benefits. The third one is more job opportunities. Because employers are looking for the certification, if you're certified, it means that there are more jobs that are available on the market. And here we're just talking about principle of supply and demand. We're not going anywhere too deep in the qualification. We're just saying when the employer says, I'm looking for A+ or Network Plus or CCNA, you can stand in any of those categories if you've got the qualification. And because you've got the qualification, there are going to be more opportunities that are available for you. So these certifications are popular and they are the best certifications for beginners. Now, I know I'm opening a can of worms. Some people say, hey, sorry, I didn't have to shout. But yeah, some people say you can't start from Network Plus, it's too low. You can jump to CCNA, or some people say you can jump to CCNP or CCIE. Like, let's face it, there are certain kids that are smart, that have jumped grades. But most of us, we went through a simple progression path. Preschool, primary school, high school, college, and then got a job. That's the path for many of us. So I'm going to be focusing on the path for many people, not the single individuals that are smart enough. So you can jump and do CCIE, that's you. But I need to speak to someone who's wanting to begin and start their career in networking. The entry-level certifications, for me, the first one is Network Plus. Now, Network Plus is a vendor-neutral certification. What it means is that it is not promoted or driven by a particular vendor. You're not going to be learning vendors' equipment or infrastructure. Network Plus is a generic course that is vendor neutral, and it provides you with the foundation to build your networking knowledge. Remember, anything that is sustainable needs a very good foundation. If you're building a house, you need a foundation, right? Because the house sits on that foundation. And the taller and the bigger the building, the deeper the foundation. So if I'm building a house that is this high, my foundation might just be maybe this part. But if I'm building a skyscraper that is this high, then the foundation has to be deeper. Why? Because the taller the building, the more the foundation it needs to become stable. So when you're starting your career in networking, it is important for you to have a very solid foundation. And for me, Network Plus is the course that gives you that foundation. It's going to teach you principles that are fundamental in understanding how networks operate. Things like IP addressing. You're going to look at switching. You're going to look at routing. You're going to look at, network devices and the devices on a network. So Network Plus becomes your starting point. After Network Plus, after Network Plus, the usual natural progression is CCNA, or the equivalent on the Juniper side is JNCIA Junos. And the reason why I put these two certifications next to each other, it's because it's a matter of which vendor are you using, right? If you're using Cisco, then CCNA is probably going to be your preferred certification. Even if you're not using Cisco, I still say CCNA is going to be a preferred certification, but I'll come back to it. If you're using Juniper, then you probably jump onto Juniper. The reason why this is usually a second step is because these two certifications tend to gravitate towards the vendor's knowledge more as compared to Network Plus. So I got trained in CCNA and I'm trained in Cisco infrastructure. Crossing over to Juniper might take me a bit of time because Juniper's command line is different to Cisco's command line. It's an either or kind of situation. So if I started with Juniper, crossing over to Cisco might be a bit challenging because I have no understanding of the Cisco CLI command, though I might have the grasp of the concept. So what am I trying to say? What I'm highlighting is that if you start on these verticals, yes, you will acquire knowledge. CCNA is good because it gives you very good generic information on networking, but I don't want you to be tied too much into a particular vendor making it difficult for you to cross to another vendor because you've been caught up in the vendor, which is why understanding the basic knowledge outside of any vendor becomes important. After CCNA, the next progression step is CCNP, and I think on Juniper is JNSP. Now this is where you're progressing higher. Remember, in the previous video I mentioned about the 3 entry levels: level 1, level 2, and then level 3. And I mentioned that these are the responsibilities that you have in an organization. Level 1, entry level, you're not doing much troubleshooting. So when you do Network Plus, you tend to get into the market as a level 1 technician, support desk, network analyst, whatever the situation might be. And then as you do CCNA, it is good to give you level 2 knowledge, network administrator, in some instances, junior network engineer. And then when you get to level 3, the expectation is that you have CCNP, which is Cisco Certified Network Professional level, or the equivalent in Juniper. So this is the easiest in terms of difficulty. CCNA is difficult, but not very difficult. And then CCNP is when things start getting difficult. And then the CCIE that comes after that, I'm not going to put it because, I mean, if you're entry level, you really don't need to know about CCIE. Like, frankly speaking, you really don't need to know about it because it's too hard. It's too hard. Okay, so we have spoken about the popular certifications. We looked at the benefits of these certifications. And we also covered, the difficulty. Which ones should you start first? Network Plus, CCNA, CCNP. Now, we want to now find out, how do these certifications align to your job on a day-to-day basis and your career goals? So when vendors design certifications, they design them based on day-to-day tasks. Right, that the people that are going to be managing the infrastructure are going to be doing. So the certification will cover, and I'll give an example. Let's say we're talking about routing. This is a router, right? I mentioned to you that the router is the device that takes us from our house onto the internet. So when a vendor is designing a certification on routing, they're going to teach you the CLI, the command line interface for that particular product. They're going to teach you how to configure it, right? They're going to teach you how to troubleshoot and how to deploy this router in multiple environments. And as the vendors were designing their curricula, their guiding point was, what are the day-to-day tasks that a network engineer who's at CCNP level needs to do on a day-to-day basis? And how best do we incorporate that in the certification? So certifications are good in that they are designed to align themselves to your day-to-day work. So when you complete this certification, right, Firewall 642618, when I read this book and I complete it and I have an understanding, the expectation is that by the time I'm done, I know how to manage a Cisco ASA device. Why? Because I learned it in this book. Number two, certifications focus on skills and knowledge that someone at that level is expected to be at. Remember, CCNP level 3, CCNA level 2. The content that you're taught in CCNA is meant to give you the skills and knowledge that is expected of you when you go to the market. So vendors have invested a lot of time and effort engaging with the corporate world in trying to understand what is it that they require to manage systems and how best do they incorporate that knowledge in the upcoming certifications. So by doing a certification, you are helping yourself align to the day-to-day responsibilities that you're going to encounter when you get into the corporate space. And then the last one is, certifications are probably the fastest way to help you get recognized. I'm going to close off by looking at John. John is trying to get a job. So John goes and makes an application, right? He writes his CV, beautiful CV, and he posts his application. And then the application gets to the organization. But there's a problem. They have a system called an ATS, which is an application tracking system. And this system, its responsibility is to be a gateway. Because when John applied, another 1,000 people also applied for the same job. So here there are 1,000 people that applied, including John. And the role of the application tracking system is to streamline the applicants and maybe produce about 30 CVs that make it to the HR personnel. Now the application tracking system is going to filter the CVs based on keywords. So if you're looking for a level 2 network engineer, what keyword are we looking for? CCNA. Okay, let's say, okay, fine, CCNA. Maybe we might take someone with Network Plus. So the second keyword is Network Plus. Now, it doesn't matter if John has got 10 years experience working in networks. If John's CV does not contain these two keywords, then there is no room for John to be employed. Why? Because John's CV is not going to make it to the 30. Because he doesn't have the proper keywords in his CV. So what am I saying? Certifications have their advantages. They also have their disadvantages. But they are one of the fastest ways to help you to get recognized in your career in networking. Because if you have Network Plus, guess what? Your CV makes it to the other side. And this gives you a chance to be able to then interview with the respective organization. So in terms of ATS systems, having the certification makes you cross over to the other side. So certifications have their flaws, just like any other qualification. But they are some of the fastest ways and the best return of investment when you're starting your career in networking. They open doors for you. They help you to get recognized. And they also help the employer to be able to understand what it is that you know and what you are capable of. So once again, we've come to the end. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.